Before anybody asks us down in the comments, I'm just gonna answer the million-dollar question right now. No, this film is not a spin-off related to Uncle Frank from Home Alone. I mean, who would want to see a spin-off like that? That guy is just absolute ass. Look what you did, you little jerk! Who wants to watch that for an hour and a half? Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel, and yes, that's right, we're gonna delve into another brand new movie review. This time around, we're hopping onto Amazon Prime to take a look at Uncle Frank. Written and directed by Alan Ball, the guy behind a lot of really cool TV projects like 6 Feet Under and True Blood. And he also wrote the screenplay for American Beauty and won an Oscar in the process. Now, Paul Bettany in here plays Frank Bledsoe, who's a literature professor, and he has to reluctantly hit the road with his teenage niece, played by Sophia Lillis, and his lover Wally, played by Peter Macdissi. And they're driving from New York all the way home to South Carolina to attend his father's funeral. So I've actually been talking to a few people about this film, and they're honestly pretty hesitant to see it. And that's mainly because they're looking at the poster and they're just like, oh, good, this is just another road trip movie. I haven't seen that before. Well guys, I'm here to tell you, please do not judge a book by its cover, because Uncle Frank is an extremely solid feature. Yes, I totally agree with you guys. The poster absolutely screams road trip film. And yeah, you're right, how many of those have we seen throughout history? They pretty much all follow a specific formula. But I promise you guys, without spoiling anything, the road trip itself is not the main crux of this film. It's actually centered around some really tragic family drama. Uncle Frank's character has never really fit into his household because of who he is, and they outcast him pretty early on. His dad especially isn't overly accepting of that, and now he's got to go home to attend his funeral. Mainly because he's the oldest and he's carrying his father's name. That can make for some really awkward tension, but honestly, the way this film shakes out and the way it's going, the way this story all comes together, it is very revealing. It's very traumatizing, and eventually it is very emotionally gratifying. And I think it sends a really incredible message. It's one that honestly should be common knowledge these days. But just how Alan Ball writes that message, and his direction for this film makes it so that this message isn't too on the nose, but that message certainly rings loud and clear by the end. This is a really solid outing for Alan Ball. Now, I've already listed off some of his previous works, and just judging from the names on his filmography, he is already an extremely accomplished talent. But I was absolutely amazed to learn that this is only his second directorial credit on film. And it looks really great. It looks like he's been directing his whole life. It's shot and directed extremely well. It's kept at a decent pace. I can't wait to see what else he does. Now, how about these performances? Because this is also another extremely stacked cast of talent. Zahn is in this film in a pretty juicy supporting role. Stephen Root also, remember him as Gordon from Dodgeball? This performance is way different from that, for sure. I was really terrified of Stephen Root, but at the same time, I just wanted to punch him in the face, because this guy is just such a jerk. But truthfully, the heart and soul of this film is Paul Bettany as Uncle Frank. Now, I get it. A lot of people really love him as Vision. They really love him as Jarvis. But I'm just gonna come right out and say it. This is Paul Bettany's best performance of his entire career. He absolutely disappears into this guy. I almost had to pinch myself in order to remind myself that that's Paul Bettany. Now, I mean figuratively, of course, when I meant pinch myself. You know, just clearing the air about that. But jokes aside, this I think is another dark horse for a Golden Statue nomination. He was great. Now, Sophia Lillis is most famous for portraying Beverly in the new It films. And she's great there, but I think she really has a great handle on who this character is also. And I really respect this performance because, again, she really gets to explore her range. Because unlike Beverly, who is looking for that person to confide in, here she gets to be that person for Uncle Frank in a lot of ways. But this is still somewhat of a coming-of-age film because she's still in her formative teenage years. She's just going off to college, and Uncle Frank is teaching her a lot about the way the world works. And I think they play off of each other brilliantly here. Speaking of, I gotta talk about Peter Macdissi as Frank's lover, Wally. Man, this guy was so likable. There was so much charisma oozing out of this guy. He just feels like he lights up every room with his smile. Every time he steps into frame and he's grinning from ear to ear, I was like, heck yeah, I like this guy. He does also have some really sweet moments towards the end of this film with Frank that honestly got me close to tearing up. I will admit though, how he gets on this road trip, I'm still trying to wrap my head around. Just because he kind of snuck up out of nowhere. I was just sitting there watching the movie. It was just Frank and his niece, and I was like, whoa, what the heck? He's here now. I don't know how he's here. I'm not going to complain that much, but... Point being, it was like magic almost. It's like he apparated into the frame like Harry Potter does. But in a year full of surprises, this is yet another one. Uncle Frank is extremely solid. I will say though, I should warn you, the one big issue that I do have with this film is that first act. Now, if anybody's watching this video or they happen to be watching this movie and they feel like turning it off around the first act, I should warn you, it does tend to meander a bit. It feels like it's beating around the bush a lot of the time. I mean, there's even a love interest for Sophia Lillis' character that just kind of pops in. And after he has a brief encounter with Uncle Frank, I'm not going to spoil anything about what happens there, but after that encounter, he vanishes from this movie. Nowhere to be found after that. And again, no spoilers, of course, but if you eliminated Sophia Lillis' love interest, it probably would have made for a more investing film from beginning to end. And to me, this film really does not get going until about 20 to 30 minutes in. And this film is 90 minutes long. And that's another thing. That runtime, with how many characters there are in this film, I really feel like this film should have been given more time. There are loads of characters, especially on Frank's side of the family, that I really wish we could have learned more about. Why are they the way they are? What are their motivations for being how they are? Now, granted, I think the main focus is where it needs to be, but I think the emotional impact, especially towards the end of the film, as gratifying as the ending already is, I feel like it would have been an even greater emotional impact if we got more time with these guys. You know what I mean? That way it could have felt a little bit more earned, and the ending could have been even more cathartic. But don't let this discourage you. I'm gonna give it a B+. I definitely recommend checking this one out. Are you guys looking forward to seeing Uncle Frank? Have you seen it already? Do you guys enjoy it? Do you not? I would love to hear all those thoughts down in the comments section below, and I would love to discuss this film with you guys further. If you guys are enjoying this content and you guys want to continue supporting the channel, if you guys want to hear more from me and my opinions, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below as hard as you possibly can so you guys can be in the loop. And if you enjoyed this review, also, please be sure to leave a thumbs up on your way out. I'd really appreciate that. And as always, look out for more exciting content hitting the channel very soon, including the conclusion to my David Fincher series, as well as my Christmas/holiday themed playlist. I have already announced that I'm going to be reviewing 5 of my favorite holiday classics the week leading up to the 25th. And I will reveal this right now to kind of tie it all in with that opening I did. The first entry that week, Home Alone. Man, I'm so excited to talk about that one with you guys. You guys don't have a clue. But thank you all so much for tuning in as always. Thank you for your support of the channel so far. With all that being said, back talk, commence.